Hi, everyone. My name is Shimona Tsukeranik, known as the Kabbalah Coach. And I had this idea to begin interviewing all the incredible people that I've met, whom I know. And as it would be, God directed me to find someone who actually finds speech very challenging, very dear friend, family friend, close personal friend, Shalom Goodman. And Shalom has a stutter. He has stuttered since he was 3 years old. Right, Shalom? Is that correct? And
around 3.
Around 3. So he calls me during the week because he's working on his speech. And I said, Shalom, you have so much wisdom. And he's also so funny that I think the world needs to meet you. So here's one of the really wonderful people in my life. He's the son of one of my best friends. She herself is an incredible artist, amazing human being. And so at some level, Shirley, I kind of think of you as a surrogate nephew, but also a personal friend. And I'm just blown away by your courage, and I want to thank you for joining us today.
Sure, and it's actually an honor, and it's a great opportunity to use my new skills in more ways, and the more I use it.
Wait, Shalom, we're going to interrupt because I can't hear you. You need to come closer to your mic. Okay? So I want you to say that again, and we'll edit that out.
Sure. So, first of all, it's an honor to be with you and to connect with you and share it with your friends and all that know you.
Thank you.
And when you offered me to do this unique kind of interview, I thought it was a great opportunity to use the skills which I have worked on for thousands of hours, and to use and to implement it in a more scary way. And when I say scary, that means it's very easy if I speak to someone who I'm comfortable with, or with someone who knows that I'm working on my speech, but it's even harder if I know that I'm being recorded and that it's being shared with a lot of people. So I'm glad that you are giving me this opportunity.
Amazing. Thank you, Shalom. One of the stories that you told me recently really inspired me to have you get on the call with me. I don't know if you could, without going into the details, but you spoke to me about meeting a child who has a severe stutter. Do you want to tell people about that a little? Because I just feel like somehow you're at a point in your life where things are shifting dramatically for you, and being able to shine a light on this challenge that you've lived with could help others, I think.
Sure. So family friends of ours who live near me in my community, who have a son who is becoming a young teen, and he has not met. He happens to also have a severe stutter, and very like mine, and I connect with that a lot. And I was shocked that he had not met anyone else who has had this same issue that he has. And as I'm sure you know, that people who have an and their problem tend to think that they are the only ones who are having this issue, and everyone else is amazing. And like
Right.
in my case, whenever I think of someone else, I think, wow, he's fluent. Wow, she's fluent, and I'm not. So this kid who has not met anyone else who speaks like him. So I hung out with him, and I just connected and shared with him how, yes, I've had the same issue as he has, and I tried to convey to him how, even though I have had such a hard time speaking, and I'm sure you'll ask me about how severe it was, and despite that, how I have not, and I did not allow it to stop me from doing the things just like everyone else. Like I'll give one small example. When all my friends were being sent out to help out in schools around the world, someone help out in community elementary.
Hey, Charlie.
I was 20, turning 21, and I had close friends who were going to help out a high school in Florida, and I wanted to join them. So I asked the rabbi if I'm able to join them, and have in mind I was on time enough. I behaved in school like you couldn't have the excuse that I was not doing well in school. I was. And he said, well, because you have such a severe speech problem, I think it would be smart if you just skip this year and go directly into the next year, which we have in our school system. And I was like, no, I am like everyone else, and you will send me just like everyone else. Even if the high school kids might have a hard time at first when they ask me my name, and it will take a very long time, but they'll learn and we'll get through it. So please treat me just like everyone else.
Amazing.
Just like everyone else.
Amazing. I love that. And when you were at camp, do you feel that you actually communicated something different from the other guys because of your speech defect? I'll just want to elaborate that for a second. I was outside the other day, and I've been working on planting a garden. And there was this very gentle rain that came down just after I had planted, which was a blessing. And I said to my daughter, one of the blessings in the rain is spaces between the drops. There has to be the space. And I'm sure that there's so much challenge, difficulty that comes with your growth opportunity, but maybe I'm projecting. I mean, I just know what it's like to listen and to learn to listen with you. So I'm wondering, what did high school kids feel like having you as their counselor and providing spaces with silence?
Right. It was actually a school. It was a high school, and I was there for a full year. And I would have to say I for sure brought something that was extremely unique that no one else had brought to them. Although it was hard at times to if all the guys who were my age, who were the counselors, were helping out the high school kids, were tutoring them, I might have had a harder time because it was hard for me to read out loud at that time. But so different ways, and I actually remember something at the end of the school year that one of the kids who I had learned with throughout the year, he's like, although it was hard at times for you to actually teach the material, and I'll be honest, it was hard even to hear at times. However, what you taught me, almost in between the lines, the how to go about life, how to work through issues, that helped me out, and I think so much more than however much I could have learned on those pages.
Amazing.
And and that almost sums up what I accomplished in that year, and almost in a small way what I hopefully try to accomplish throughout my life. And I almost see it as my small purpose in life, to show someone how even having an issue and not being able to speak like everyone else, you could do things just like everyone else, and even to a greater and higher degree.
Do you think that your ability to push back when they said, you know what, why don't you just skip this year, and you push back, do you think that just came from your own soul, the download you got, or it has to do with your parenting? I mean, I know mom and dad are just, in my opinion, superlative parents. Rare.
You are right, and I do have to give credit where credit is due, and as I recall that throughout my early childhood, my parents would tell my teachers and would although I would have to have some special attention, like when Shalom speaks, you cannot interrupt, and he could speak, just allow him to speak. However, they said to them over and over, treat him like everyone else. He does not have special needs. He's like everyone else. He happens to speak a bit slower or have a hard time getting out the words, but treat him just like everyone else. And that for sure has helped me know that even though it's hard to speak at times, there almost aren't any excuses. You have to do what you have to do, like small examples, like if I'm in a restaurant and the easy thing is to tell someone close with, oh, are you able to order me a hamburger and fries? And that's easier than me speaking with the scary new and they'll say to me, nope, you have a voice, you say it. And I'm like, oh, can I have a oh, hello? Hamburger and
Amazing. Shalom, you remind me about when you did that, about your technique of exaggerating. And I know you're learning with this incredible woman. Maybe you can tell people her name and where she is. But I'd also like you to share a little bit about this technique of exaggerating and going into the pain point. We try so often to just move away from what's difficult. And what I've noticed in the last while as you're working on your speech is that you go right into the challenge in order to come through. So you want to share a little bit about that?
So, first of all,
Coming to the mic a bit, can't hear you.
She's a woman. Her name is Alice Ann Farley, and she's a special friend, and she's been my therapist for the past half a year. And she lives in her office. It is in a very small place called Irmo, South Carolina, and it's a half hour away from Columbia, South Carolina.
I just want to clarify. Her name is Alice Ann, and the last name is Farley.
Correct.
Okay. Shalom, I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to interrupt you, but I just want to say, Alice Ann, thank you.
Yes.
It's like just seeing Shalom come out, hearing him emerge is the best. Thank you.
So, to explain, throughout my years, I've had some great and some not great speech therapists. Actually, I was counting about a week ago, and I have had over 13 speech therapists throughout my life. And the one I have found, she was the only one who was really able to help me in a true and real way, and not that I was not helped by others, but what I have found is that because of how severe I am, and I say I am because it's easy to say, oh, you're speaking well, I'm fluent now. I'm not. I always have to continue to work on use the skills. But in the field of stuttering now, the hip approach is to use something that works extremely well with someone who is more mild, who like, I'll give you an example of someone who can be mild is someone who just has some bumps, and okay, it's not so smooth, but you can work your way through a technique that is called fluency shaping, which just allows you to almost speak like this, and you can hear a bit unnatural intonation in the voice, and it works extremely well. You can hear it even works well with me. And it worked so well with me while I was in the clinic working with a speech therapist in their office. However, right when I left their office, even when I was calling a cab to go back home, I was like going from, hey, my name is Shalom Goodman, I'm so fluent. What just happened there? What is happening? This is not how it should be. I should not be paying a lot of money per hour to be fluent in the office, but then when I'm home, it's just back to me. And what I have found, that the approach that I have found most helpful is a non-hip approach, but it's so needed for someone like me who is so severe that it incorporates both the way of fluency shaping, of flowing with the words and throwing in a lot of pauses. But here comes the great thing, is where whenever I was taught to not have those blocks. And if I spoke like this, I would not have any blocks, because the blocks would not arise. So what was the problem was that when I got home and I was having a block, I would go, and I knew I was having a block, but I did not know what to do to work with the block. And then here comes where Alison helps me out, and she happens to be a holy woman who she herself had the same problem. She claims it was worse than mine, more severe than mine. And if you spoke to her now, you would not know that she had any speech problem. But what her approach is, which is very old school, is that you have to work with the blocks and to learn to ease your way out of them. So to give you an example in another thing, pretend you have your hand and you turn it into a fist, and you're squeezing your fist extremely hard, and you feel that tension over there, right? You feel it's hurting. So what I was having throughout my years, I was holding on it so tight, and I had no control, that I was throwing it every which way, which would cause me to speak like that, and I would shake and have my jaw hurt and my eyes blink, which I thought helped me, and I was not controlling it. And then I come to a approach that I feel the tension, and I learn to ease my way out of it. And I feel that tension. It's good to have that, and I learn to come out of it, which we call a pull-out. So I've been doing tens of thousands of pull-outs, and something also called a cancellation, where you have a word which you think or know that it did not come out smoothly. So I'll give you a small example. If I'm saying, hey, Shimona, and I felt it was not going well, so I would pause for 7 seconds. Shimona. Shimona. And what that does is it retrains my brain.
Nice. Wow.
In a small way, that, okay, this old way is not how you want to speak. If you continue to do that and cut corners, you'll be speaking that way for the next 50 years. But if you pause and you correct it and modify the behavior, then it slows.
It's so counterintuitive, but I see the results are unlike anything that you've demonstrated. Right. And to me, as a coach, what I find interesting is that that's a lot of what I want for people in any case. You know, it's like, don't run away from the failure. You're big enough to fail. That's one of I hear people saying to their kids, you're just the best, the hyperbolic. And I think that more than saying you're wonderful, what's useful for a person is to say you're big enough to fail. And when you're easing in or you're pausing, that's what I sense. It's okay, I have this condition, and I'm going to just pause there and move through it.
And you have to learn a way, obviously, a smooth way to ease out of it, and that helps you so much.
Right.
Like something, I mean, the hard part about it is the the fact that it takes so much time, so much effort. And like, for example, I have a specifically hard time speaking on the phone. I mean, even to call up a restaurant and ask them what their hours are is it's still very scary, but I've been calling hundreds of
Really?
yeah. Hey there, what time are you open until? People say, oh, we're open until 8. Okay, thank you. And just doing that over and over. So like a half hour ago, just before we came on, I just wanted to make a call. So I called up Enterprise and asked how much it would be to rent a car from June 8th to June 26th, and just made up times, and just doing that over and over helps reduce the fear factor, which is because it's caused me so much anguish speaking on the phone, and then I've got hung up. I don't know the proper grammar for that, but just it's been so hurtful, and that causes more stress. And if I call someone up and I can't get the words out, and then the person says hello, and I'm not answering because I'm
Right.
Are you there? Hello? Bam. And like that like has a effect on your like fear factor now of every new time you're gonna.
Right.
So my new trick is I'll call up someone and I'll just say, and they'll answer, hey there, this is John, how are you? And I'll go, hey there. And they'll have to say, hey there, how are you? So they know I'm on the line. I exist. I have a voice. Oh, you guys sell small iPhones or just the larger models? Like some.
Shalom, I'm certain that there have been many challenging times and the fear factor, being hung up on, being interrupted, but is there any incident that stands out for you as being very funny? Was there a time that was humorous?
For sure. I've had many a time where it has actually helped me, and I've personally used it for my.
You want to share one of those with us?
Sure. So I recall I was in 8th grade, and we were having an oral exam, and the principal was coming in and like testing everyone. And I, not being the greatest student at the time, had no idea the information. So asking him and then him, and he comes to me and he asked me to read something that we were supposed to be tested on, and I'm going, and I exaggerated so much that after a few words, he's like, that was great. Okay, who's up next? And I got off scot-free. So like small stuff like that, which as you being a coach would say is not healthy, but helped me at that time.
Well, I think that it's great. It worked. Although I want to tell you, folks, Shalom wrote an article, and I'm going to be publishing it on the same page as this interview on the blog. And one of the things I love that you said at the end of the article, Shalom, is I don't want to wear my challenge. You know, we in the method, we like to speak about challenges as growth opportunities. I'll say to people all the time, what's your go point? And that's what I asked you to write about. What were the growth opportunities? What have you learned from this challenge that was given to you? And I love the fact that at the end you said, I'm working on not leading with the challenge at the moment.
And that is one of the main issues that I still am working on, where I'm so known. Everyone knows me and they almost expect, oh, he's the one who has this speech problem. And it could be a great thing that he does not allow it to stop him from having friends and just hanging out with everyone. So I've always used that as a plus, and actually something that my mom has been saying, that something that that someone uses as a child to help them out and to grow could be used as a crutch as an adult.
Right.
And I know I'm unique in other ways besides for the fact that I have a speech problem, so I can't use that as what I am and like continue to use that as making me unique, because it is unique. If you like this, and
Right.
everyone who's watching this, I'm not like making on some funny face. This
Right.
is how I've spoken. Like Shimona, you can tell over. I've had meals where I've eaten at your house where you wouldn't even ask me to speak because I just am like so scared that you would just say, "Oh, just sing a song. You have a great voice."
But Shalom,
and just imagine, although it's great, you had some way to include me. Imagine how much effect that has when it happens over and over, where you're almost silenced and just like feel that, oh, at certain times you just can't speak, and that like it could harm your self-esteem, and it hurts a lot.
Right. Look, being on this end of your speech, because in Kabbalah and Hasidut, we say speech is the intermediary between the inner self and the outside world. Sitting at the table many times, I felt, damn, this guy's inner world is more beautiful and rich than most people I know. We're here, and I just wanted everyone at the table to know you. Right. And there were times that I felt that about myself. I just wanted to, come on, Charlie, give it. And we'd have to, it would take a long time, or it would be with your eyes, or, other forms of communication. And one of the, when I gave the 2 thumbs up to Alizanne, it's like, oh gosh, you brought this guy out. And you have so many unique and wonderful qualities that you can lead with. So I want to ask you just 2 brief questions before we end. Is that okay?
Sure.
You've shifted now, and I'm wondering what the game changer was for you. Like you said, was it 13 speech teachers that you've had, or facilitators? That's a lot. And your parents were extremely devoted, didn't give up. But what shifted? Is this just a physiological thing, a brain thing, that a guy hits a certain age, or, a woman, you have to be a certain age, or is it that there is a need that arises that motivates you to generate the change you're seeking?
Well, so we have spoken about how healthy it was that I had a great upbringing and that I had such great support from family and friends, and that could be hurtful to working on speech, because you're just so happy with just who you are that you don't even have to work on it so much. So you asked about a game changer. I would have to say I was going out with a girl, and I recall, first of all, I was telling her something, and I was trying to say the word friends. And I promise you, Shimona, it took me over 70 seconds to say the word friends. Friends. Oh, how come you can just say it now? F is a hard word to sound out, first of all. And then after coming home from that date, I recall even to this day how much my jaw was throbbing. Why? Just from me.
Fist.
The fist with the teeth that were clenching for 3 hours straight. That, imagine how much that hurts. Where I promise your teeth are being clenched and your heart, I'm sorry, well, the heart also, but your mouth is throbbing. From what? From what? Just from speaking. To speak should be harmless, and it's a very natural thing. And for me, it just was so hard. So after that, I was like, okay, this has to be worked on. This is not what it should be. Oh, he's a great guy. He happens to have a speech problem, but that is hurting me long term. And I do not want to be so in pain after speaking for an hour or two.
You know, I have never heard someone spin a wonderful upbringing that way. It's really interesting. There's a story that is told about a Hasidic Rebbe who was abused by his stepmother. And many years later in his life, he explained how something that happened in his upbringing, which was a very negative interaction with her, actually saved him in a different situation. And you're giving almost the opposite, which is I had such unconditional love and acceptance. I didn't have to go to the next level. I didn't have to.
Exactly. And that actually is a common thing you'll see very often, that someone who has a major change in their speech, in my case, in uttering, that it happens around their early 20s, where you have to look for a job or something like that, and like you have to build a family. I mean, it scared me a lot that like, gosh, imagine not being able to speak smoothly with your children. I mean, even though I will have some times where it is hard for me to get some words out, that's fine. But in general, that like you're not able to communicate, it's first of all, it's extremely hard to express in words. I'm not so great at explaining things because I've hardly I have not been so experienced in explaining things because I just say small sentences or words.
Right.
It's been so hard for me just to get a flow with the words. And that happens to be why in all throughout elementary or even high school, I was always the class clown. And how come he can just speak like that? Because I used to throw in my funny comments, and it was always one or two or three words, and it was always fluent because it was not expected. And first of all, it was out of line.
Yeah, you know, in Hebrew, the words to run and to want, ratz and ratzon, are the same. It's like you don't move unless there's some need. Right. It could be a need to give to others, a need to generate something for yourself. And I find it inspiring that even the desire to communicate with your children, is part of that. Of course, there's a very big global picture of you in your life. But that understanding that need becomes a motivating factor. Okay, so I want to. Did you want to add something?
I just wanted to add a very interesting aspect in what I'm doing as a skill to help me with my speech. Is I still have a hard time, like I go into malls and I just say, oh, can I speak to you, just and schmooze and just try to use the skills, and still I find it very hard because I'm too much in their head and thinking about what they're saying. So what I'm trying to do is I begin by having a hardships, speaking right from the get-go, and I'll struggle on purpose. So like I'll go to someone, hey, how are you? And they'll all already know, okay, he's not fluent.
The cat's out the bag.
And then I'll say, oh, so can you tell me about what is on sale over here and what perhaps you would recommend? Do you have anything that is extra long for me? So if I already have that, it like, okay, I don't have an expectation to be just like everyone else. I can work on my speech. And what helps a lot is if I say, hey there, can you help me out a second? I'm working on my speech. Actually, you asked me for a funny incident.
Yeah.
A few months ago, I was walking around Kingston Avenue in Crown Heights, and I was with my brother, and our goal was to just go up to people and just go, hey there, I'm working on my speech. Can you help me out and stuff? So we're going here and there. I'm making new friends. And then I'm like, hey, over here's a police officer. I'm going to go schmooze with him. Wait, this is a true story. I go up to him and I'm like, hey, officer, can you help me out? It's like, sure. And then I'm like, and I cannot get a word out. Okay, so he sees this, and he sees my older brother, and he's like, what is happening here? He just asked me for his help, and now he can't speak. So he's like, okay, like, is there something huge here? Is there something wrong? So, and my brother, he's not helping me out at first. He's like, no, you got yourself into this and you'll get, but I was so overwhelmed even by the officer's reaction. So I'm like, yo, help me out. So he's like, oh, officer, everything's all right. He's just working on his speech. Like, oh my God. And then after he said that, I was like, yeah, speech. And I was like, smooth after that. He's like, what just happened? Oh, he was smooth. He couldn't say a word for half a minute, and then he smooth every other time.
Charlie, I want to ask your opinion on something. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, who led us out of Egypt, one of the greatest leaders of all time. He was a political and a spiritual leader. He had a speech challenge. I don't know if it was from birth, but we know that the sages tell us that he had swallowed these very hot coals as a young child, and he couldn't speak. So it's like election time, and I see how these people speak and say nothing. They hunt with their mouths. They lying and cheating us of our awareness of accurate understandings. So being a stutterer, what's your take on why it would be so important that the Redeemer of our people, we know Miriam, his sister, and Aaron, Moses' brother, and he were the three pillars of the redemption, but Moses is the one who transmitted the Torah, and he had a speech challenge.
Right.
What's that about?
So I think I have two thoughts on that. Like before I say that, as I'm still continuing to work on my speech, I feel that I am slipping up, and the more I get enthusiastic and the more excited I get, it's a bit harder to use the controls. So I'll just say to you, I need to like focus back in more. So I'll speak a bit slower and almost more, so that I'll get a bit more control. So having that in mind, there are many answers that are given about why he had it, and like someone, I mean, Hashem, who can create the whole world, he can split seas, he can make someone fluent, I promise you. So like, why did he not cure Moshe? So two answers that, I mean, I'm sure there are many answers.
Right.
Two answers which I really. First, the one that is in the Medrash. See how I felt that, and I eased out of it. In the Medrash, it speaks about how the Jews were able to differentiate from when Moshe spoke directly from Hashem through him. When he spoke through God, he was fluent, and the Jews would know, okay, he's speaking through God.
Through Moses, you mean? God was speaking through Moses. So when he spoke through Moshe, Moses' speech was without any impediment. He had no stutter.
Then, when he was speaking on his own way of speaking, it was hardships, and that we were able to see a differentiation between the two. And another thought on it, which resonated very much with me, was that it almost tells so much about the Jews and how the whole episode of Moshe freeing the Jews and sending them out of Egypt, and then giving them the Torah. It tells us how this man, who was a direct emissary from God to help out and show and lead the Jews, he did not get the Jews on his side because he was smooth and he can just ease his way in there and just say everything's so great, like some prophets. I won't name names, but in other religions, I've heard that like some of them were very smooth, and their power of persuasion was amazing. So you can get everyone on your side if you're so enthralling and you're able to speak so smoothly. Here, however, this was not pleasant to listen to, and yet he was the one who showed everyone the right way, and they all listened to him, not because he was so smooth, but because he had the truth.
He was a person of truth.
And truth speaks more than anything else smooth, and that is what I've like almost like lived with a lot. That if I speak words of content, then everyone who's hearing me speak, even though it at times is not smooth at all, but if you're hearing the right message and the message is real and it's from the heart, they will appreciate it and hear you out much more than if you're just smooth and saying absolutely
Shalom,
nothing of.
I want to say something. Listening to you and being in conversation with you is, to me, a gift. Always. You embody that. There's always content and the truth. It's such a privilege and a pleasure to talk with you. And I'm humbled by your courage. You know, people say to me, oh, you're a speaker. And I think, wow, if I worked on my speech, like Shalom works on his speech, where would we be? So I'm thinking of that little kid that you had, I don't know if it was tea or whatever. I hope he gets to see the video. You'll have to send him the link and share the light and keep shining that inspiration and transmitting the light of your soul, the inner light, to the outside so that you can light up other people's insights.
Right.
Thank you so much, Shali.
Sure, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you and to share whatever I have. And obviously everyone has something that they are able to share, and I am thankful to you for allowing me this opportunity.
Thank you.